Diagnosed with lupus after years of unanswered questions, Heather Cherveny knows what it means to live with uncertainty and to fight for clarity. As an esthetician, she not only helps others feel confident in their skin, but also brings compassion shaped by her own experience with a chronic illness. Through chemotherapy, flare-ups, and monthly infusions, Heather continues to show up with strength, grace, and a fierce sense of purpose. Thank you so much, Heather Cherveny, for joining me here on AwareNow to share the space and to share your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get started this way. Let's talk about your undiagnosis. You went undiagnosed for quite a while before learning you had lupus. So, Heather, to start out, can you take me back to that time, the symptoms, the misdiagnoses, and how you finally got the answers that you needed?
Absolutely. So I was 35 years old. It was February of 2018, and I had gotten sick. I had type A flu, a double ear infection, strep, and I had a fever for 5 days. So I was very, very sick. It was for like 2 weeks. And then afterwards, the symptoms just gradually kept happening. It started with fatigue and some achiness. And I thought, well, I'm just kind of getting older. And I thought, well, this just kind of happens with age. And I didn't really think much of it. I had a very stressful job at that time, a corporate job that was very demanding. And I was in a management type role. And I thought maybe with that and having a younger daughter at that time, she was 6, it just was a lot on myself physically and mentally. So I just kind of brushed it off. And then around May of 2018, I just really started seeing changes in my body. I had gained 20 plus pounds, probably around 25 pounds. But it wasn't like fat, it was bloated. I had edema. I was swelling, my bones and joints ached like the flu. It was very similar to like the flu. But really what prompted me was Memorial Weekend, I started urinating visible blood. And I really didn't know what to do because at that time I didn't have a primary doctor. I hadn't even seen a doctor in 8 years at that time. So I didn't really kind of know what to do. So the next week I kind of searched for a doctor to really just get into, just to start some blood work. And so I went into a doctor's office, kind of told them all my symptoms that I had just mentioned. Low grade temps at that time was starting to happen. So they did a whole workup panel, your CBCs, all the baseline blood work. Urinalysis, and they did an ANA at that time. And my blood work was just crazy. The ANA was positive, but it was what they considered a low positive. And I don't really remember everything else that was off, but I believe my inflammation markers were high. So she had basically thrown it off to streptococcus or something like that. It's a post-strep that you get in your bloodstream. And so I believe she put me on an antibiotic at that time to help with that. So I went on the antibiotic, but then my blood pressure started going up, and my blood pressure was 182 over 102. Never had high blood pressure at that time. At this point, this is the first time I ever had high blood pressure. So my mom took me to the hospital. At that time, it was called Beaumont. And we decided just to get out of Genesee County healthcare system because nobody was really helping me. So we started traveling from Lapeer to Royal Oak and seeing doctors down there. I was in the hospital at that time. It was July now of 2018. They kept me for a week and they ran some blood tests, and my dsDNA was positive, which is a huge indicator of lupus. My ANA was still positive, but considered a low positive. I had some other off blood work. But what threw them off is my complements were high. So my C3s and my C4s. So they didn't want to diagnose me with lupus because those were high, and typically with lupus, those are low.
Gotcha.
So when I was there, I felt very defeated because I'm like, okay, something's wrong with me, but no one's really listening to me. You know, like I'm sick, I'm having to work and take care of my kid, and no one's listening to what's wrong with me. You know, I'm not doing this because I enjoy being in the hospital or want to pay for these doctors. And I actually took it upon myself to monitor those and actually put them in a spreadsheet just to show the doctor. And I ended up taking those to the doctor and saying, you know, what do I got to do to get you to treat me? You know, I'm urinating straight visible blood. I'm urinating protein. I'm swelling. I have visible edema. You know, I have bone and joint pain. And I feel like you're just not even helping me. Instead of him listening to me, he took a piece of paper and wrote out a weight loss plan for me to do. I walked out of there crying. I felt so defeated. I felt invalidated. I had gained all this weight. I knew from the inflammation. I had so much inflammation. I was 8 times the normal limit. And you're going to tell me that I can't work out right now. Like, I'm trying and I can't. So because he left the inflammation, I then started passing out. My daughter found me on the floor. She called the ambulance. They took me to a local hospital here in Flint, a level 1 trauma hospital. They treated me like a drug addict, which I'm not, and put in my chart it was for anxiety. Come to find out, down the road, I have POTS. Lupus, which at that time I was not diagnosed, has developed into POTS. My POTS is not all the time. It's only active if my lupus is in a flare. I did end up leaving that rheumatologist. I did see another rheumatologist after him. He had said to me in Rochester, and he was supposed to be a really good one. I thought, well, he sees really, really rare diseases, so I thought maybe he could help me. So I went and seen him. Well, he was a nice doctor, but looked at me and said, I can't help you. You're too complicated of a case. So again, walked the hall of shame, crying with my bags of medical records and photos and health journals. Got in my car, got back on Facebook, asking all my network Facebook pages, who does everybody go to? I need answers. I can't live like this. And I got a name in Lansing, and I went to him. It took 2 months to get in, and he took me serious. And he took not one of these, but 2 of these. These are all my medical records from that time. My journal that I kept of my time during that, and all my pictures, which I sent you some of them. Him and his team there's 2 of them, 2 women, looked through those for 2 hours and came in the room and said there was no reason for you to be a lab rat, because that's what you were. You have SLE lupus. And they said, why weren't you ever right from the get-go? And I said, because my C3, my C4, my CH50 are high, and they're normally low. That's what I've always been told. And he said to me, the reason they're high is because your kidneys are still fighting to stay alive. That's why they're high. When they're low, it's because they've given up. So I went all that time undiagnosed and not listened to and being told, you're stressed, you're fat, you need to lose weight, you have anxiety. When all along, I was fighting a disease and nobody was listening to me. So it was 9 rheumatologists, 3 one-week stays at a couple different hospitals, the Mayo Clinic, $20,000 in debt to get my diagnosis of SLE lupus.
Oh my
And I
gosh,
had to
Heather.
take short-term disability for 3 months during that.
And these are the stories that we hear too often, right? Where we're not listened to, or where people are feeling exactly how you were saying. So invalidated, so
Mm-hmm.
not heard. I mean, couple that with the fact that then you say, okay, now after enduring all of that, now I have to move forward living with an
Right.
autoimmune disease. So
Mm-hmm.
let's shift gears and go that way. Living with an autoimmune disease like lupus, this invisible disability, it changes
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I guess my question for you now is, how has it shifted the way that you move through the world? Emotionally, physically, how does that change?
Well, I've had it for 7 years now. Um, I have more than just SLE lupus. I have POTS, I have fibromyalgia, I have MALS, PATS, which are acronyms, and I have neuropathy. Um, and as you know, when you have one autoimmune disease, you typically have more. I'm hoping nothing more comes along the lines to me. But the way I have lived with it, the first 2 years were very rough. You grieve. You grieve your old self. You grieve who you used to be. You push yourself past your limits because you don't really know your limits. Um, you're angry. You lash out. You're depressed. You isolate. Um, you feel different, but you don't look different. People don't think you're sick. So you feel like, again, you still don't feel validated because you don't look sick. So you have a diagnosis, you still don't look sick. So you don't feel validated at work, sometimes in your circle with your friends and family. It's very challenging the first 2 years. I got through it because I did have a very supportive, close tribe. Um, my purpose definitely is my daughter. And I stayed focused on being a good mother, being available as much as I could for her. Was I perfect? No, I wasn't perfect. Um, my mother, she was always there for me. She went to every single appointment with me. At times was a little bit overwhelming and overbearing, but I'm blessed to have that because not everybody does have that. And she was there for me. Um, and just really taking the time to understand what could come. So just because I have lupus doesn't mean I'm going to have all these things that, all these other people have. Lupus is different for everybody. It defines people in different ways. So I researched for myself what lupus could look like or what I could deal with to be prepared for that. I'm a very type A person. So I like to be prepared, and I like to be prepared of what's going to come my way. So for me to feel safe, I had to do that for myself. And to do that, I had to research, and I had to network, and I had to be involved. Um, I was very blessed to get a diagnosis after 18 months. Typically, it takes 6 years for someone to get diagnosed. I could not imagine 6 years of going through that and not getting answers. Talk about feeling lonely
Right,
and feeling
right.
defeated. I lost so much to lupus. I was very successful prior to lupus. I had a six-figure job. I was making six figures. I owned a house, and I lost it all to lupus and being sick. And yes, I pitied myself. And one day, probably during chemo, I realized I'm not really in control completely of this disease, but I'm not going to let it define me. I can be pitiful or I can be powerful, but I can't be both. And that's what I decided. And so during my hardest days, my purpose was my daughter and set an example for her. of what a strong woman looks like and what life can look like in being difficult, and that you do not allow it to define you, that you keep going and you find a new you define your life differently. So I had to leave my job, and that was hard, and I cried a lot, and I had to sell my house that I worked hard to get. Nobody helped me get that house, and that was hard. And I was on chemo, and I was sick, and I had my bachelor's degree, and I went back and I went into got my esthetician license, and while I was still on chemo, and that was challenging for me because it made you have brain fog. And my whole purpose of doing that was become an oncology trained esthetician, not just an esthetician, oncology trained esthetician, which is what I am now. So you asked what got me through my hardest days?
Yeah.
My goals, defining a new Heather and not being just Lupus Heather. That's what defined me.
I love that. Finding the Heather that you are going to be moving forward and not trying to claim the Heather that you were before, letting go of that Heather and embracing the new one. As this incredible oncology esthetician. So let's talk about that. As an esthetician, you're in the business of healing and helping others feel confident in their own skin. So how has your personal experience, your personal journey with lupus and with skin sensitivity, how has that shaped the way that you care for your clients?
Well, having lupus, I have reactive skin. I react to products. I react to fragrance. I react to the sun. I react to stress. And I'm sure you can understand that as well. So, a lot of people don't realize, even without illness, meaning an autoimmune, a lot of us do react to all of those things, and we just don't realize it. For example, we'll just talk about fragrance. There are 3,000 fragrances that the FDA allows in our cosmetics or our skincare. If it is 1% or less, the manufacturers do not have to list it. The number one reason that we have contact dermatitis is because of fragrance. 900 fragrances that the FDA allows are known to cause cancer. So that's scary, one, to us that are immune suppressant or have autoimmune disease, but that's scary just to our population in general. Very scary. Yeah. So being an esthetician, I can relate to people on both ends, being autoimmune and understanding the sensitivity and the skin reactive, and individuals that don't have autoimmune and per se healthy, because I didn't get sick till I was 35. So I kind of lived two different lives. So I feel I can relate to people in the sense of that I have had a normal life and been healthy, and I have lived through the chemo and understand the hair changing, the nails changing, your skin changing. Your skin becomes brittle, becomes dry, becomes reactive, becomes itchy, redness. I had all of that, and that changes you, your self-esteem. It changes all of that. So your skin is your largest organ. You visibly can see it. So I wanted to teach individuals that you can be sick and still feel good about yourself. I didn't feel good about myself. So when someone comes into my spa, I'm going to educate them. I'm going to teach them about what products to use. And you don't have to buy the things that I'm putting on your face or showing you. I can show you over-the-counter stuff. If you're going through chemo or radiation, let me show you some products that you can put on before you go and get radiation so you don't get that chemical radiation burn. Do you have a scar from your port? Let me show you a feathering technique on how to help with that scar tissue. Nobody teaches you that in the Western medical or medicine. Nobody teaches you that. So I wanted to take that a step further and help individuals feel good about themselves, not only on the outside on their skin, but in the inside. Because if you feel good in the inside, you're gonna glow. That energy is gonna radiate. And that's where I'm also a Reiki 1 and 2 certified.
Oh.
And that started with my chemo. When I was going through chemo, I got into Reiki as well. And I did it for myself. It started with myself. So I do Reiki as well.
That's amazing.
And I offer that. So, yeah.
For someone who is out there and still waiting for a diagnosis, feeling dismissed or defeated, what would you say to them? What do you actually, here, let me rephrase it this way. What do you wish someone had said to you when you were in that place?
I think it's kind of a cliche answer that when you say, what would be my recommendations to somebody that's going through this and doesn't have answers, of not giving up, but it's truly, that is the truth. Don't give up. You can't give up. And that is the honest to God truth from every person that has gone through this. You are your only advocate, your best advocate. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to stay organized. What that means is staying organized with your paperwork, with your test results, with your doctors, with what medicines you tried and what you've done. Keeping a journal of your day-to-day, of your symptoms and what medicines you took and what was the weather that day. You have pictures, having a picture log. So staying organized with those things. Don't stop trying new treatments. There's no cure for lupus and many autoimmune diseases. Keep trying new treatments, seeing what things work for you.
Thank you so much, Heather. This has been great. Thank you so much for sharing of your story, for sharing this time, this space. Thank you for helping all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Yeah.